Hello, everybody, and welcome to our third episode of the Muddied Waters podcast. I am Matt Pavette, and
I am Luke Junta. I hope everyone's doing well. And today we got a very special guest, Dr. Virus. Can you introduce yourself, Dr. Virus?
Hello, my name is Dr. Vincent Irus, but I go by Virus, and I'm coordinating the government's response to the coronavirus pandemic, not very successfully, but I'm doing what I could do.
Hey, we appreciate the hustle, Dr. Virus.
I wouldn't even say that I'm really giving that much effort, but sure, yeah.
Mediocrity is okay, I guess.
I in this situation, I'm not. Well, that's debatable, but hey, we'll get into it, I'm sure.
So one of the things we ask of our guests when they come on is for them to give us something to chew on, something to talk about before we get into our guest questions. So what do you got for us to chew on, huh?
Well, I mean, if I knew I was going to have to cook something, I would have brought a stove.
Ooh.
But since I'm assuming you mean metaphorically chew, I'm going to say capitalism in the age of the coronavirus.
that's loaded.
It's very Muddied Waters.
And we are totally unqualified to talk about it.
Oh, absolutely. The whole point of this podcast.
So I say continue.
Okay, so you look at certain businesses that obviously require people to come in and frequent their business for them to stay open, but we're all in tight lockdown orders and we all have to stay home for good reason, and so those businesses aren't getting any money, and so now you've got people out there protesting, saying, "Hey, we should be allowed to open up." And the government's saying, no, everybody's going to get the virus if you open up. Not Dr. Virus, but the coronavirus.
The bad virus.
The bad virus.
Thank you for clarifying. I was a little confused there.
I think, yes, it could have been viewed in a different context. That is not what I meant. I meant the coronavirus. So now you've got two sides of this saying, we should be able to open up. The other side saying, no, you're going to get the virus. But the point is that realistically, I think, personally, as the leader of the government's coronavirus response, that we shouldn't have to choose, that the government that is making everybody shut down, again, for good reason, should pay us to not have to work. And the problem is that, they paid $1,200, but that doesn't really do much when you have car payments, house mortgage payments, gas bills, electric bills. What would that do? And so it really is a tough situation, and I don't think people are out there protesting the right questions, which is really how come the government can afford to give big companies, airlines, oil companies, bailouts, but not individual folks like the pizza guy around the corner who had to lay off half his staff because nobody is coming into the restaurant. Nobody can come into the restaurant. How is it that the government can do one but not the other? And so my point is a roundabout way of saying capitalism is failing during this crisis.
You kind of sound like Andrew Yang right now. It kind of sounds like you're talking about universal basic income.
Yeah, universal basic income is a good idea, especially in a crisis scenario where income isn't an option. And so universal basic income is obviously an alternative that doesn't require everybody to go to work, since we can't go to work. Yeah, for sure.
Woof.
Well, Luke, give us your political expertise in this.
This is an issue that I've been studying for all but 5 minutes. I was actually talking with my dad about this, and before.
Also a professional.
Oh, complete professional. He gets his sources from Joey Bag of Donuts on the corner. So
I know him.
Yeah,
I went to school with his cousin.
Good guy, reputable source.
Joey Sack of Bagels.
I think one of the things I heard about was that, like, the government's able to bail out these big businesses because I think it's something with their loans, like they're able to get a piece of the money that they like give out or something like that. I think like the government gets back some of the money that they give to bigger businesses, I think. And that's where they're able to do that, whereas with smaller companies, like, you can't really get that much money. This is also my limited expertise in a 2-minute conversation with my father. Take this with a grain of salt.
I don't really put salt on my donuts. That's kind of weird. Not gonna lie.
Grain of sugar?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it with a grain of sugar.
All right.
But that would make sense if that was the case. If that was the case, that would make sense.
Yeah, and I think I always hear people talking about, like, oh, how would the government pay for it? And I've heard other ideas. Like, I think Andrew Yang specifically said he would want to put it like a VAT tax on things that are being sold by, like, companies like Amazon in ways that are currently not being taxed. Doctor, do you have any opinions on that?
That is true. That is what he said. It is a VAT tax, not a barrel tax, not a bucket tax, but a VAT tax. And yeah, and I believe that stands for value added tax.
It does.
It's a fancy sales tax, is what it is. And it's probably not a bad idea. Other countries do it in Europe. They do it. I don't know who else does it, but other people do it.
And that's really all the proof that you need. I mean, if one person does something, everybody else should, right?
That's really, I plead the fifth, actually, on that one. But, I mean, speaking of Europe, another interesting thing is that we're talking about how capitalism's failing, but at the same time, you've got countries like Italy, Spain, France, that have a universal healthcare system. And this is something that we've been hearing for a long time is so much better than our system. And now, right before our very eyes, we watched all 3 of those countries collapse in a matter of 2 days, their medical system under this virus. And again, the coronavirus, not Dr. Virus. So, and our system didn't collapse. I mean, say what you want, New York had it really bad, but nobody went without a ventilator. Whereas in Spain and Italy, I mean, at a certain point, they were like, sorry, grandma, you know? And so here, we haven't had that problem, which is an interesting, different end of it, where we have a free market healthcare system, and it might not function well under normal circumstances when 15% of the population doesn't have insurance, but under this crisis scenario, it's almost like it kind of worked better.
Yeah. And I guess the difference there is also, like, economic, like how easy it is for people to pay for things, as you said, with the healthcare. It's like the infrastructure is certainly different, but then also like the way that in which you pay for the healthcare is different as well.
Right.
Yeah. Well, do you have anything else for us to chew on, or can we move on to some questions? As I'm sure everybody really appreciated this very stout political advice in this trying time.
I am currently chewing on the end of my glasses. I would give that to you to chew on also, but in this age of germs everywhere, I don't think that's a good idea.
Well, we appreciate the consideration.
So I'm out of things to chew on.
All right.
Fortunate.
For you, not me.
All right. So we do have a first question, kind of reminiscent of The Matrix.
What?
Could we be living in a simulation? And if we are, does it even matter? Okay.
The problem is that if you answer the second part of that question first and you say no, it doesn't matter, then really there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I guess my answer would be like, it's possible. I mean, if you want to believe that, go for it. There would be some sort of implications of being in a simulation that would matter, but I guess to you personally, it wouldn't matter if like everything just continues as the same. I don't know.
I mean, it'd be pretty cool if this were a simulation, like what happens afterwards, Why are we in this simulation? It is. But I don't think we're in a simulation. I think you're bugging. No way. No simulation.
But have you never seen like glitches in the simulation? Like, oh, how did this happen?
I mean,
Or
the
how did this
Mandela,
happen?
the Mandela effect. That do be realistic though. That do
Can you
be.
explain that to the audience?
So the Mandela effect is when a group of people remember a certain thing happening some way, but in reality it happened another way. Like, for example, I believe it was believed back in like the 80s or the 70s, everyone thought Nelson Mandela was in prison or dead, and like he wasn't.
They thought he was dead.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
They thought he was dead, but he was in prison, right?
Yeah.
And then like everybody remembered him being dead, but in fact he was in prison. And like there's a bunch of other things that people remember being some way, but occurred another way, like the spelling of the Bernstein Bears. I believe everyone thought it was it ended with EIN, and then it was like instead like IEN or something like that. I don't know. It was there's a bunch of different like inconsistencies people chalk up to the Mandela effect. And now that I'm thinking about that evidence, we could be in a simulation, Marty.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
convinced himself.
Yeah, he talked himself into it. I mean, I guess like what one person might call a miracle, another person might call a glitch. I never think of that, Luke. And Doctor. I don't want to exclude Dr. Virus from the conversation.
That's actually similar to what I was just thinking. I think that, I mean, so personally, I'm a religious guy. I know you two are, right? I don't want to be too presumptuous, but I think so. And so, I presume.
You presume correct.
I presume. I think that there is a God and that everybody secretly knows this. It's innate in all of our brains. And even though in this day and age, a lot of people are turning away from religion, everybody wants to be spiritual. There's some people, oh, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, all that. And I think it's something that's in there. It's because the brain knows that something created it and that thing is still inside you. Sorry, God, I called you that thing, but and so I think in terms of the simulation, that's another aspect of this, is that people, because a lot of people that think we're in a simulation, I mean, like Elon Musk talking about it. Elon Musk's not a religious guy. A lot of people that feel that way, I don't think are particularly religious, because I don't really know how the two would go hand in hand. And so I think that it's another outlet of that innate feeling in your brain that there's something else out there that created us, and there's something else out there that's sort of guiding us in a way. And so if you want to look at it like that, then yeah, we are in a simulation. I just don't call it that. We call it, we were created by God and we're on earth for a purpose, to love our neighbors. And then at the end of the so-called simulation, we go back to the thing that created us if we were good boys and girls. And if we were bad boys and girls, we go somewhere else. And so I think that this is another outlet of that people, people are saying there's something out there that created us. There's something that's bigger than us, but they're not religious, or they don't have they weren't raised with religion, so they don't really know the aspects of it, but they have that feeling. And they're like, maybe we're in a simulation. And it's kind of like, that feeling expressing itself.
That's a really interesting take. So it's basically like the concept that people intrinsically feel that they're a part of something bigger. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes. The same reason people say I'm spiritual but not religious. They weren't raised with religion, or they don't like religion, whatever reason, but they know that there's something that created them, that they're not, the universe isn't completely random.
Dr. Virus, I have a question. Was your PhD in religious studies?
You got me. I know nothing about epidemiology. My PhD was in theology. But evidently, if you walk into a hospital and tell a patient you're a theologist, they believe you and they think you know what you're talking about.
Interesting.
So when you prescribe Robitussin for a heart attack, no one bats an eyelid.
Yeah. So the only thing you're really good for is giving last rites.
Yes, I've been made. And believe me, my patients need a lot of last rites.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, too soon, maybe.
Oof.
Too soon.
I'm a theologist. Would you have heart surgery done by a theologist?
I suppose not.
Exactly.
I thought you were making a coronavirus joke.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah. I could see how somebody would have thought that, but no.
So, how do we balance being impulsive / in the moment versus being thoughtful, but possibly overthinking things?
You know, this is something I struggle with every day. Trying to be like in the moment and everything, and like it's something that I constantly think about. And I'm actually reading about how to like be in the moment. It's just one book I've been reading. It's called Real Happiness. I mean, I've been reading it intermittently for the past like 2 years. Like I'll go through like a chapter, and it's one of those books where you could come back to it whenever you need it. But Real Happiness, it's like a positive psychology book by Jonah Packett, and it's all like clinical studies and stuff. And there's like certain exercises that you can do that like cultivate living in the moment or cultivate like gratitude and certain other things. And I've been using those and it kind of works. So, I mean, I guess like as far as that, using specific exercises to keep a balance of the two.
Do you think that can go like too far the other way? And do you think you can be too impulsive? And where is that balance?
Well, the book does recommend like using it not too often. You know, like I used to do these things called gratitude exercise. I mean, I still do them, but like you write down 3 good things that happened each day, and you do this. It doesn't recommend every day, but like every 3 days or something like that, or every 5 days, and it'll make you substantially happier. And I guess that could go in the same regard as like living in the moment, you know, doing these exercises so often that you can feel it and you can cultivate that naturally, but you could also not be impulsive. You know what I mean? Doing everything in like temperance.
Temperance, yeah, I guess. I think temperance is like the one, I guess, like if you call it like a virtue that I think oftentimes gets overlooked, but it can a lot of the times be the most important.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, everything I think at the end of the day is about balance. So, you know, if you do too much of one thing, and really anything, you know, you're going to end up being in a situation where you're either not happy or you're burned out or, you know, you're doing something unhealthy. And it really is about, you know, striking a balance with, you know, really anything in life.
Yeah, that's the truth. What are your thoughts on this, Dr. Virus?
I mean, do you also have a PhD in philosophy or
Yes,
just the theology?
Yeah, I actually bought the place out of its doctorates when I went to university. I bought all of their doctorates. I got them all.
Man with many hats.
Except for ones that pertain to the coronavirus, but no one knows that.
He didn't have a medical school.
You know what? Dr. Phil sold weight loss products and supplements, okay? If he could get away with that.
Whoa.
He also doesn't have a license.
Yeah,
so he got his license taken away. Yeah.
He had inappropriate contact with a patient, something I have never done for the record.
Whoa.
And also, he broke privacy regulations when Britney Spears was his client, his patient. So whatever thoughts you have about Britney Spears, know that she was probably failed by her psychologist. But anywho, I would say when it comes to overthinking things, I think that humans are naturally in a position to do that because just evolutionarily, you know, our ancestors way back had to think about their next meal and stuff, and they had to worry about it. You know, you got to enjoy the meat from your hunt, but while you're sitting around the fire, you're thinking, okay, this is great, but in 3 days, I got to do it again. And then, you know, in places where when they started having agriculture and stuff, you had to plan ahead. You couldn't eat all your food right away, or you couldn't use all your fields right away. You had to plan for the future. And so I think it's it's like necessarily a part of how we think, is that we have a hard time living in the present because our future survival depends on our thoughts in the future. So that's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to get around, because I think it's probably hardwired into us.
Kind of a nurture versus nature kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. In what sense?
Like you you doing like deliberate practices to like live more in the moment versus your innate DNA to worry about things.
Oh yeah. When you first said that, it made sense, and then I lost you for a sec. But now, upon further review, it makes sense again. Yes.
Okay, but doctor, would you say that for yourself that you're more of an impulsive, in the moment type of person, or do you think you're more of a, think about something first, but possibly overthinking type of person?
I think I have an unholy mix of both, if we're being honest. It's son of a biscuit.
Nice sensor there.
What?
Nice sensor there.
Thanks. See, that was almost impulsive, but good thing I thought about it.
Hey!
Boom.
He's tying it in.
That's right. You can't see what I just did, but I just dropped the mic. So, I think that for me personally, I overthink things a lot. I overthink small things because. Why? Because I don't remember why. But I do that. I overthink a lot of things. Whether I'm talking to people or whatever, I'm like, okay, is that actually what I wanted to say and everything, especially after the fact. I'm not really all that impulsive, which is good for my credit card, because now that we can shop online and stuff. But yeah, so my problem is more about thinking too much about things. I'm not really that impulsive of a person.
It just made me think of a Dr. Virus story, and we can cut this later if you want. But I was standing in the campus center with Dr. Virus, Michaela, and Mia, and Dr. Virus was like, "Well, I'm bored by this conversation," and without saying anything else, he just left. and then he walks back 5 minutes later. He was like, "That was rude. I'm sorry." And he hugged them and left.
Okay, upon further review, I could be an impulsive person. Well, that was a situation where, I mean, without getting into too much detail, it was talking about a person and their relationship with another person that I didn't feel I didn't feel qualified to talk about it, and also I don't know, it just didn't feel, it felt a little icky, like when you gossip about people and you're like, hey, you weren't gossiping, someone else was gossiping. But when you gossip about someone and you're like, I don't feel right about this, talking about people and everything, and
yeah.
I don't know, sometimes it just feels a little. And I had something I wanted to do that night, and I was like, why am I standing here? And I ran away. But no, that wasn't a really great thing to do, considering the fact that this was the night before we went home to never come back.
I didn't want to mention that.
Yeah, that wasn't.
No, but I get to what you're saying. I just thought it was a funny moment.
Yeah, it was. I mean, yeah, I kind of what in the bed on my whole not being impulsive thing. Oops.
Okay, does anyone else have anything else to add on this topic? No? Okay. So our final question, and this will be right up Dr. Virus's wheelhouse, because we had to have a question about COVID-19 with such an expert on. And the question, it's not the answer, is what will life be like after COVID-19? How are we going to, what is the future going to look like? Are we going to stop shaking hands like some people have said? I know we've kind of talked about this in previous podcasts, but we have to ask the expert.
Am I the expert?
Yes.
Oh God. Well, no, I don't think we'll stop shaking hands because that's a tradition literally since the Romans, and I don't think. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like something. It's so widespread. What I do hope to see stop like dead in its tracks is people coughing in their freaking hand because that is disgusting.
Word.
And so many people do it, and it's mostly I'd say people older than us, but not exclusively. And a lot of people are stubborn and they don't like what you tell them, and they think it's an opinion. Like, oh, I think it's better for you to cough in your arm. No, I don't think that. The whole world and everybody wearing a lab coat thinks that. But that's something I do hope to see change. However, I don't know if this is also my area of expertise. Probably not. I mean, nothing is, but my pretend area of expertise. I think there's going to be a lot more online work and a lot more online classes because so many people are saving so much money on it. I'm not saying Lemoyne necessarily is going to do it, but I know a member of the board of trustees of another university, St. Lawrence, and they said that they're already talking about it in the future. Like, hey, this is great. We don't have to pay, because we pay a lot to stay on campus, but it also costs the college a lot. And so it costs less for them if they could keep us learning remotely. And we're going to see a lot of negative changes that were coming in the economy anyway. I think we're going to see it happen a lot faster. For instance, retail was on the decline, like in-person retail, like Macy's was on the decline. I mean, who do you know that was in a Macy's in the last month before this happened? And so now it's like, well, they're all shut down. And this was the death nail. Or so many of them are already filing for bankruptcy, and so many of them have to buy from Amazon. And a tragedy is actually what thrust Amazon into the position that it was in. When it first started, it wasn't very popular. Then 9/11 happened. People were afraid to go to malls. People were afraid to go out to shop because they said, is there going to be a bomb here? Is somebody going to fly a plane into here? And so it was a serious concern. And people were like, I might as well stay home and shop this Christmas season. And it was a terrible Christmas season for retail. But then that was like a little jump. It gave Amazon the boost it needed to stay in business. And then it really didn't make a roaring comeback until recently. But now that's number one. You're going to see a lot more online retail, and the malls are going to go out probably within the next 10 years. And then you've got automation in terms of, manufacturing and whatnot, where you look at like the Smithfield ham plant and all these workers. It was a hotbed of the virus, the coronavirus, not the Dr. virus. Everybody got it working there. And so it's like, okay, maybe if they transition all that to automation and then they realize how much cheaper that is, then all those jobs are just going to go and never come back. And I think you're going to see a lot of structural changes in the economy that were probably coming anyway, but are absolutely like going to be on top of us now. The world is going to live online way more than it even already did, which is going to be interesting to see. And I think that's a little bit more significant than, no offense to that question, but a little bit more significant than handshakes.
Well, I have to say that's way more of a thought out and refined answer than we're used to on this podcast. So I appreciate that.
That's my economics PhD.
Yeah. But do you think there's going to be any sense of like a gratefulness that that people are being cooped in so much now that like there's kind of going to be this renaissance of people wanting to go out and be with each other? Or do you think people are going to be like fearful to kind of from like a psychological point of view? I know, that PhD, you don't get to draw on it as much, but I don't know what you think from that point of view is going to happen if, like, oh, now we can all go outside. Everybody's going to run outside and, hug and do whatever and want to be together. And people are going to continue on doing like these walks and stuff like that.
No, people suck. They're gonna keep sucking.
You're gonna
nobody's gonna be more grateful. I hate to say it, but I don't think so.
Nah, I mean, like, I think that there'll be like a brief like episode of like, oh, this is great, being outside, seeing my friends, and then it's just gonna go back to normal. We're gonna take everything for granted like we used to.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be like a honeymoon period.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like, I think that, like, this whole like recovery plan is gonna go in phases. Like, I think once like the last phase is done, and everyone's like comfortable again, it'll be great for like maybe like a month, maybe a couple weeks, and then after that, it's just gonna go back to normal.
Yeah, I mean, whether or not you like the analogy or not, like, a lot of people have kind of compared, the events of coronavirus to 9/11 in terms of like people think that after coronavirus, like things are going to like change policy wise, and I don't know if that's a fair analogy, but it's just, there definitely are some people who believe that things are going to like change permanently like after coronavirus, and I'm not sure. Like, I really don't know. It's hard to predict the future on that front.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is definitely going to be like a generational defining moment, I guess. And I think that it definitely will bring like
sure, yeah,
big change. But yeah, this is going to be something we're going to talk about to our grandkids and our kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We can be like, when our grandkids are like, oh, you don't it's like you can't go outside now. Like, imagine not going outside for a whole month. Like like back in my day. Like, I can't wait to hit the grandkids with that. So I think Luke and I very appreciate you being on this episode 3 of the Muddy Waters podcast, Dr. Vincent Irus, I believe is your full name.
Dr. Vincent Irus. I go by Virus.
Yeah. But, we wanted to say thank you for coming on and giving us, your expertise on everything. That's absolutely 100% supposed to be taken as 100% fact and not opinion, correct?
Correct. I am an expert, and it should be taken as an expert opinion, which is essentially fact.
Anybody else have any closing words?
Stay safe out there.
All right. If anybody has any questions, please submit them to lukeandmartypodcast@gmail.com. And I believe that is all that we have, and we'll see you guys next week with another special guest. Thank you. Bye.